Hi, it's Leaf for On Your Marks Wrestling, and I'm here with a review of the just completed Fastlane pay-per-view. Um, Much better than I expected. I did not really have much. Um, I didn't really care what happened during this pay-per-view all that much. As it went along, I started getting more and more feelings about it, but just heading into it, I was kind of like, most decisions would be inconsequential, but there are a few kind of important things that happened here, so I'm going to try to go over them. I got my handy notes here, written just below my recipe for mac and cheese, so you know I don't have that many notepads here. So I'll start with the pre-show. There was a match between Breezango and Ty Dillinger. It's with Breezango and Ty Dillinger versus Gables, Benjamin, and Mojo Rawley. My notes said the crowd was really hot for this. The match was average at best. And the faces won, which surprised me. I expected the heels to win because I just thought that out of all these people, Gables and Benjamin are probably the people that are most relevant and could potentially gain from winning this match. But, you know, they gave the crowd something they wanted. It might have helped fuel that crowd even more. That crowd was really good tonight. I think this was Columbus. I've never really paid attention to whether or not Columbus is a good wrestling town, but apparently, at least tonight, sure seemed like one to me. So after that, we get to the main show. Aiden English comes out with an intro song for Rusev Day with lots of lyrics to it, more than usual. And I actually thought his song was pretty good. It was better than just singing Rusev Day. But the Rusev Day song is still extremely catchy. I thought the match, Shinsuke Nakamura was already out at that point. Standard entrance. Pretty decent match, back and forth. Not crazy long. There's one point where Nakamura goes for the Kinshasa and Rusev gets him with a kick, and it was like pure, beautiful kick that looked like Nakamura had died. He sold it very well, but he kicks out. Eventually, Rusev goes for the accolade. Nakamura manages to sneak out of it, knees Rusev in the back of the head, and then hits him with a Kinshasa for the win. Rusev certainly didn't look weak in this. It was a very even match until the very end where Shinsuke hit his finisher, which is a very protected finisher. So that's absolutely fine. I thought that was absolutely okay. The note I made is that I guess the one big note was that Nakamura kicked out at like 2.99 out of 3. And that was a running theme tonight. I don't know why, but people were waiting till the very, very last second to kick out, and there were a couple, probably 3 counts that were kind of nullified by it, but that's okay. Next up was Rude versus Orton, and I wrote a lot of notes on this one, I guess. I know that it was a pretty long match, and Rude and Orton are very similar in that they're really technically gifted, but not that exciting in the ring. The psychology is not bad, but it just kind of, sometimes our matches can feel long. I know Orton, for some reason, he bores the hell out of some people. I'm not quite there with him. Sometimes I kind of enjoy his matches, but this certainly went a little too long. Still, it had some good moments. Some interesting things, lots of near finishes. One interesting thing was that Orton hit one of the most beautiful, and it always is beautiful when he hits them, superplex. And at one point, Saxton basically called out to Kevin Dunn and said, "Hey, I need a replay on this," which is very strange. I've never seen that at any time watching WWE, hearing Kevin's name. But he got what he wanted, and it's true. It was a very beautiful move. And then the finish, which was really, really good, was Rude going for a second rope move. Now, I don't know what the move was. Maybe we'll say it was a clothesline or something like that. But it gets countered into a perfect RKO. Now, I did not really want Randy Orton to win this, just because I'm just not that interested in him. But at the same time, WWE loves their records, and this gives Orton the kind of 4 major titles, or 5, 6. I don't even know what the number is, but like a grand slam of sorts. And at the same time, Rude at the end lost clean, which was surprising. I was absolutely certain that Jinder Mahal would show up and kind of interfere, but Rude actually lost clean. But then Mahal came in, attacked Orton. Rude saved Orton by hitting Mahal. Excuse me, I am sick and my brain's not working. But he hit Mahal with the Glorious DDT. But then he went to Orton and hit him with the Glorious DDT and seemed conflicted. So they're kind of hinting at a heel turn, which is all of a sudden the Mahal thing makes sense to me, because I feel like it's almost, or putting the title on Orton too, but I feel like it's almost needed. Rude as a face is over, but he's not that over. And Rude as a heel just has a little bit more leeway, and the heel thing kind of fits his gimmick a little bit more. Like, his gimmick is almost narcissistic, yet he's a good guy. It doesn't really make sense. So I actually kind of liked what happened there. I didn't think of it, but I'm actually pretty happy that they went with that in that direction. So what was next? Next was the women's tag match. So it was Naomi and Becky Lynch versus Carmella and Natalya. The first note I made is completely superficial, but I wrote that Becky Lynch's pay-per-view gear is a lot better than her regular gear, where she looks like a cosplayer of some sort for steampunk stuff. During the pay-per-view, she has like a singlet thing, and it just kind of looks better. Maybe it's just me. I don't know. I like it. Her regular ring gear is not terrible. It's just, I don't know. Other than there being no stakes in this match, I found that they kept it pretty short. And that was important to do in this case, because the match, like I said, did not have any real stakes. It was still pretty fun, and at the end of the day, the match ended with Carmella hitting Becky Lynch with a super kick after Becky Lynch was a little bit distracted. And I wrote down that Carmella is probably the person who could use a win the most in this group. Becky Lynch is the most over person in the group, but Carmella has that Money in the Bank briefcase, and they haven't used it. And I think you need to kind of boost her up before she uses that Money in the Bank briefcase and kind of becomes relevant. If you don't do it, then it's going to be a wasted opportunity. So I was okay with her winning. That's why I had actually picked them to win. I thought that she should probably pin Naomi, but that's fine, whatever. She pinned Becky Lynch. They win. It's a good win. It was a decent match. I honestly thought this was kind of the match that you kind of skip over and make yourself a snack, but I thought it was pretty fun. The next one was the tag team match between the New Day and the Usos. It was the New Day's smaller team of Kofi and Xavier. A very back and forth match, pretty evenly matched. The running theme became teams doing each other's moves. And I usually like that like once or twice. They might have exaggerated it a bit, but whatever, it's fine. So you had the running ass in the corner by Kofi. I don't know what that move is actually called. Then you had a boom drop by an Uso. I never know which one it is. Then dual troubles in paradises that were missed. And then you had the Usos hitting a midnight hour on the New Day for a near fall. Then you had a bunch of super kicks by Xavier Wood, which is an Uso staple. A big splash. I believe it was Kofi that did the big splash. I'm not quite sure. But for a near fall. And then they were going for the double big splash, which was an Uso finisher, which gets stopped by the Usos. They kind of shove them off the top ropes. Eventually, the Usos do a dive onto the New Day, which is outside of the ring. Everybody's kind of on the ground, incapacitated. Then come out the Bludgeon Brothers. Bludgeon Brothers come out and just destroy everybody. Sometimes that can suck. I thought this was actually done pretty well. Two kind of standout spots for me were excuse me, at one point, Harper power slams an Uso. Rowan body slams another Uso on top of that Uso. Now the two Usos are kind of lying beside each other. Harper slaps Rowan in the face, as he's known to do. Rowan picks him up and slams him onto the Usos. And then Rowan splashes the Usos with Harper pushing him down. And then there was a pretty sick power bomb onto the steps on Xavier Woods, which he sold like $1 million. They brought out a stretcher. The stretcher did everything right. It made the Bludgeon Brothers look really scary. It was kind of perfect. I really liked it. I had called for this before the pay-per-view, and I'm sure other people had. It seemed an obvious thing. I thought it would be either Benjamin and Gables that would come in or the Bludgeon Brothers. It made more sense if it was the Bludgeon Brothers, so it's perfect. Excuse me. Then we had a promo by AJ, just a typical fiery promo. It's interrupted by Shinsuke Nakamura, who wishes him good luck, and then AJ interrupts him and just finishes his promo essentially saying, I don't care what you say, I'm going to win, whatever. Then comes the women's match. There's a decent video package before the women's match. WWE is always good at that stuff. At one point, I just made a few notes. The match was, I actually thought this was a very good match. They really made Ruby look strong throughout. So there's a point where Ruby is actually kind of in not a sleeper hold, more like a rear naked choke, but standing on top of, well, I guess it was more of a sleeper hold on Charlotte's back, and she tries to get her off, and Ruby stays on there. So Charlotte essentially does a fairly safe dive outside of the ring to get Ruby off, onto the apron and then onto the floor. I thought that was kind of a unique way to get out, just a panicked, I'm going to do anything possible to get out of this. Potentially dangerous, but they did it very safely, so it was neat. At one point, Charlotte gets distracted by the Riot Squad, and Riot actually hits her Riot Kick, which is her finisher, for a near fall. Then Riot feigns an eye injury to give her squad the time to interfere and go beat up Charlotte, who's on the outside of the ring. But Becky and Naomi show up, so they're still kind of fresh after their recent loss, and they protect Charlotte essentially. Now there's at some point, Becky and Naomi get goaded into going into the ring because of the Riot Squad being there, and they get kicked out of the match, and then the Riot Squad are attacking Charlotte while this is happening, and they think that Ruby Riot's all happy about this and really kind of saying, oh, I'm going to win now. Riot Squad gets to stay. And then the ref kicks out the Riot Squad as well. And that was kind of a fun little moment. So they get kicked out. So all of a sudden it's Ruby versus Charlotte again. Now throughout the match, actually Ruby Riot dominated the match. She was actually kind of in the lead for most of the match. And that's important to note because they could have made this a little bit more squash-like. But this match went long, and it was pretty much in Ruby's favor for a lot of it. And she did great. She was doing everything right. Cool moves. Everything was working. So basically, at the end, Ruby did this kind of dangling thing over Charlotte, and it almost and Charlotte ended up flinging her face first into the. It's hard to explain. So Ruby's kind of got her legs wrapped around Charlotte's face, and then she kind of leans back, so her back's against Charlotte's back. But then Charlotte kind of flings her forward. Almost, what's that move Bob Holly used to do, where he would just kind of pull your legs and hit you down? Nikki Bella does it too. Anyways, it's almost like that, but face first. Riot hits her face into the turnbuckle, and then Charlotte hits a spear and then gets the figure eight, wins the match. I actually really enjoyed this match. I didn't think I'd enjoy it this much. But then probably the most important moment of the night occurs. So Charlotte's in the ring, she's holding up her belt, doing whatever, and Asuka's music comes on. And Asuka walks into the ring and kind of showboats a little bit, like she does. Walks up to Charlotte, stares her down, points out the WrestleMania sign, because that's how we communicate nowadays. And basically the match at WrestleMania is set. It's going to be Charlotte versus Asuka Asuka's crossing over to the SmackDown brand, at least for now. And yeah, I think that's a pretty big WrestleMania match. If you think about the women wrestlers on the roster right now, that is pretty much the biggest match you could set up. So I would not be surprised if that's a co-main event at least, because I can't think of much bigger match that you can make than that. So then comes the 6-pack challenge, and Shane McMahon comes out first, so you know he might be involved. You see a little bit of early tension between Zayn and Owens. They don't even kind of talk to each other on the way to the ring. The match starts in kind of a dumb way with Cena clearing the ring with a bunch of AAs. So he just hits 4 guys with AAs, and it just leaves him and Styles, who was too smart to attack him. They have a little back and forth, whatever. This match is, it's got 6 people. It's tons of finishers, people interrupting each other's finishers, things like that. I did write some kind of notable ones. So at one point, Cena had Ziggler up for an AA, and it got converted into a Famouser, which was a weird transition, but it kind of worked. I wrote that Baron Corbin hit Styles with a deep 12, because it was more than a deep 6, we'll say. It was great. Eventually, there was an AA through a table to Styles that looked pretty painful, and basically took Styles out of the match for a while, so it kind of bought you time to look at other guys. I wrote that Ziggler sold his ass off in this match, especially for Corbin. At one point, Corbin did this kind of pop-up faceplant thing for Ziggler, and Ziggler must be an amazing dunker or something, because that guy jumped up probably 10 feet to land face first. He made Corbin look like Superman. I wrote that, at one point you had Zayn and Owens in the middle of the ring, and Zayn does as he says. He goes and lays down. Owens comes in, but he doesn't believe it, so it kind of goes... I don't know what he went to do exactly. I don't remember. But Zayn ends up trying to roll up on him. So obviously they don't trust each other. Zayn ends up eventually on the outside. He's confronting Shane McMahon. And Owens tries to super kick Zayn. Instead kicks Shane McMahon in the face. And then Zayn hits Owens with a move. And then you have Owens hitting Ziggler with a pop-up powerbomb. And Owens is going to win, and McMahon reaches in when the ref is at 2 and yanks the ref out. So McMahon has interfered in a match when he probably shouldn't have. Then Sammy catches Owens with a haluva kick, and he's going to get hit his three count, and McMahon yanks Sammy out to interrupt it. So now he's interrupted twice. He's prevented both Owens and Zayn from winning. What else do I have here? Cena, eventually Corbin comes in with the steps and starts attacking people, but Cena stops him and then AAs him onto the steps for a very, very, very near fall. Person might have been a little late to break it up. I think it was broken by Ziggler. Then Ziggler eats an AA, Ziggler eats an AA. Cena tries to give him another AA. Owens yanks him off and gives Cena a pop-up powerbomb. And before Owens can cover Cena, he gets hit with a phenomenal forearm from AJ Styles, who you hadn't seen for 10 minutes. AJ Styles ends up retaining his championship. That was pretty much the end of the night. No kind of surprise people showing up at the end, anything like that. You just kind of saw a dejected John Cena on the side and kind of a sympathetic, to a certain degree, AJ Styles in the middle of the ring, kind of moderately celebrating his win. And then McMahon walks between Owens and Zayn and kind of looks down at them, and he's cool with the fact that he ruined their night, and he just kind of walks off. And that's pretty much the end of the pay-per-view. So like I said, I thought it was all right. Not that many stakes, but the Asuka thing certainly kind of boosts the pay-per-view, sets up a huge WrestleMania match. Now you have the question about Cena, who's his opponent going to be. You have your dream match of Nakamura versus AJ Styles, which we wanted throughout the process. I still feel there's a little bit of intrigue with Carmella, even though she wasn't really part of this. I'm looking forward to her Money in the Bank. I thought Ruby Riott was made to look very strong here, so I think you can still do a lot of things with her. The tag team stuff, you needed to establish at least a third, maybe a fourth tag team, so get the Bludgeon Brothers in there. They're clearly a contender now. They've just destroyed the top two teams, plus an extra guy. I think you're going to have to kind of at least keep them close to the title picture, so that's good news. So they accomplished quite a bit of stuff here. It wasn't perfect. The Rude Orton thing, I'm talking myself into it a little bit more. Some matches went a little bit longer than they probably should have gone, but other than that, I have to say, like, overall, the wrestling was quite good. The storytelling was all right. The lead up to this pay-per-view was awful, but, the end result isn't the worst. We're in pretty decent shape heading into WrestleMania. I find that now there's at least one really intriguing WrestleMania match. Prior to that, I'm not sure there was one. There were some planned ones, but I wasn't looking forward to them. Charlotte versus Asuka is a definite yes for me. Like, I definitely want to see it. So they accomplished that. I guess we'll give them credit. We'll see how the next few episodes go before WrestleMania, which is in, I believe, 3 weeks. And yeah. So I guess that's it for me tonight. I have posted a lot of stuff this week. I know we're not getting that many views, but that's absolutely fine. We kind of want to build a base at least of videos, some content. It's not the most perfect content, but it's content. We're giving opinions. We're kind of getting a feel for this. We're probably going to get better as we go along. I've really enjoyed recording these episodes, at least for the first week. I wish I wasn't feeling so sick right now, but I've survived. And I want to thank anybody who's watching this or who will watch this in the future. I hope you all enjoyed the pay-per-view as well, and we're going to have more content for you coming up this week. Thanks.